Welcome to ZKast, everybody. I'm Zias Caraval from ZK Research, and I'm here again with the esteemed Bob Laliberte of ESG, now a tech target company. Bob, how you been doing? I've been seeing you all over the place.
Yeah, doing all right. Yeah, it seems like the last 2 weeks we've maybe seen each other on the road quite a bit.
Yeah, it's network user conference season, and one of the interesting things about so obviously we're going to talk about Extreme Connect and also Cisco Live. And one of the interesting things about the two events is while there's all this overhang out there about, the pandemic still and supply chain shortages and, inflation, the network business is booming. Both companies told us their backlogs have never been bigger. Every customer we talked to at these events said the network is super important. What are your thoughts on the kind of the state of the industry right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing the same thing. I mean, I think it's all a factor of that these organizations are creating these highly distributed environments. And so there's one key component to having a highly distributed environment, and that's a network to connect it all. So as organizations are distributing their applications across data centers, clouds, and edge, their workers are being distributed from their campus environments, branch to the the one key component that's going to be critical to all that is being able to ensure connectivity.
Yeah, I thought one of the more interesting points made too during Chuck Robbins' keynote was actually not made by Chuck Robbins, but by the CEO of Ford, where he said that for the first time ever, they're able to drive innovation into finished products. So you think before, with an auto manufacturer, they finish a product, they roll it out. Oops, we forgot that, right? Either do a recall or wait till the next model comes up. But now that everything's done in software, this network foundation that connects it all is what drives innovation. So, that's
absolutely. And I thought the telling component was this isn't all about a transition to electric cars. It was about a transition to digital products.
Yes.
Which is what you were just referring to, right? So that's the really key part of that, is that they're able to work on the products as a digital instantiation, right? Basically a digital twin of what's going to be produced and catch things in that production cycle.
Yeah, well, since I'm wearing purple right now, let's start with Extreme Connect. That was 2 weeks ago in Nashville. You were there. I was there. They're obviously much smaller than Cisco. They're a pure play network company, though. Mood was pretty good. What'd you think of the show?
Yeah, I thought overall the show was impressive. I know they had a sold out crowd. They weren't sure what was going to happen with the time of COVID, but obviously there's a lot of end users that are really wanting to get back out there and see what their vendors are doing. And it was a great event for them. I thought, it seemed like Extreme had used their time in COVID well. They had a lot of significant announcements and, bringing out SD-WAN, bringing out digital twin capabilities, things like that, expanding to their universal hardware capabilities. So a lot for their customers to digest and take in and learn about.
Yeah, in fact, they were, we can talk about some of the announcements, but I do think that the combination of Cloud IQ and universal hardware gives them a lot of flexibility. So for those of you watching that don't know what universal hardware is in fact, when I first heard of it, I thought, this is just some marketing ploy, but it's really pretty cool. You can take a piece of hardware and then you can boot it whatever operating system you want. And so if you're, a former Avaya customer, you can boot it with that OS, or you can boot it with the Extreme OS, and then switch if you want to. And so now that they've got that platform built, they could buy other companies and potentially boot other operating systems. Now, and with the Cloud IQ being cloud native, right, and they went through a lot of work to modernize that product, they can buy other companies and drop them in. In fact, I think that was one of the cool things about you talked about SD-WAN, but Ipanema. I thought InfoVista sold that at the perfectly wrong time, because they just went through the work of remodernizing it, right, refactoring it to cloud. So that they brought that functionality in 6 weeks is when Nabil Bukhari, their CTO, told me, right? So those combination of those two gives them a lot of flexibility down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it was impressive for how quickly the SD-WAN product was brought into the Cloud IQ portfolio and integrated in. So that's they're obviously maturing as they grow and being able to, like you said, ingest other companies more rapidly. The universal hardware, like you said, it really gives organizations an opportunity to consolidate and a lot of operational efficiencies there.
Yeah, what do you think of digital twins? So that's digital twins, a very commonly used term in a handful of verticals, aerospace, retail, things like that. We don't use digital twin a whole lot in corporate IT, although I am hearing it more and more. In fact, if you subscribe to ZKast, you would have seen other digital twin videos, so go back and check for those. But what do you think of the Extreme announcement?
Yeah, I thought it was timely. Obviously, I'm seeing the same thing you are. There's more organizations taking a look at how can this digital twin technology help me out. I thought it was in this initial instantiation that Extreme is bringing to market. It's extremely timely and relevant in the fact that organizations with supply chain taking so long, it actually gives organizations an opportunity to start working with a switch, even though it's just virtual, because it's basically that exact replica. So prior to getting that hardware in, they're able to go in and start getting used to it, configure it, play with it, understand it. And then when the actual hardware comes in, they're able to just simply download the configuration to it and get off and running.
Yes, the companies can actually start the purchase process now, even though they don't have the hardware, and work that in. So yeah, so I thought that was pretty interesting too. And Extreme, of course, I think they're a company that, frankly, Bob, I was worried about a couple of years ago. They bought all those companies really fast, and I thought, man, they bought a bit off more than they could chew. And we saw the revenue like up and down and up and down. And but they seem to have righted that ship. So just before we wrap up Extreme, any kind of closing thoughts on what you think of them as a company right now?
Yeah, it's what I would say the same. The interesting part of that was that not only all the customers were extremely enthusiastic about the Extreme product line and their roadmap that they've created to bring all of these companies together and provide that uniform, like I said, that we talked about that unified platform for hardware and then the unified management platform as well. So there's definitely a vision and a roadmap that are there. And it's not only the customers, but all the employees are really bought in as well. Obviously there's always going to be some excitement around these shows and enthusiasm, but we know from talking with them, extremely low employee turnover. And the employees are genuinely excited about the opportunities that lie ahead of them. And like I said, a lot of these announcements were just the start, right? And there's going to be that continued expansion as they drive towards that vision of the infinite enterprise.
Yeah. Okay. I guess wrap up the Extreme portion. We both give it thumbs up, right? So now you and I went from Nashville. We went back to Boston. We hopped the plane. We went to Vegas, and we showed up at Cisco Live. We're here. Cisco Live, right? So we dropped into Vegas at Mandalay Bay. We went to Cisco Live, show 3 years in the making. They had all the restaff on board, lots of announcements, lots of innovation. I thought one of my big takeaways from the show was that for all the product innovation Cisco does, and they do a ton of it, right? I thought the underlying theme for this show was make IT's job easier. And if you look at a lot of the product announcements, it wasn't, they had the new Nexus switch, and so, they had the new shiny toys and stuff. But for the most part, a lot of the innovation was about how do I make the engineer's job easier? And I think all through this pandemic, Bob, we've talked a lot about how to make the worker's life easier. We kind of forgot about the people behind the scenes that are driving, that are letting us work. Your IT department decide, but that's another story. Any kind of underlying themes for the show for you?
Yeah, I think for me, and coming from a network perspective, it was clouds are in, right? So cloud-based management took a big center stage, right? There was the Todd Nightingale taking over enterprise networking, starting to see that integration of the Meraki and Catalyst lines, Nexus offering the cloud management, more integration with Thousand Eyes to provide predictive and analytics and so forth across the network environment. So like you said, all things to help drive operational efficiency for these organizations with their highly distributed environments.
Yeah, and I thought while there was lots of announcements, I thought the one that was really the big highlight was with Catalyst and Meraki coming together, right? So often when you take two great things like Bob and Zeus, like chocolate and peanut butter, the combination of the two is better than the individual silos. And I think with Catalyst and Meraki, this has been a long, long time coming, right? They have known Meraki for 9 years, but now, in case you missed the news, you can see Catalyst devices on the Meraki dashboard. It's questionable where they go next, how much configuration they bring into that. But for the most part, this was, correct me if I'm wrong, this was a very important announcement for the company.
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to have that cloud monitoring, if you will. But the important part is I think their theme was, your choice, your way, or your journey, your way. So this doesn't mean that organizations have to give up DNA Center and move to Meraki. this is an augmentation. This is
Yeah.
right. It's not an either or, it's an and. And so, and given that organizations, a lot of them have hybrid environments with Catalyst switches, Meraki APs, and things like this really helps, I believe, to help unify that wired and wireless space, especially in that hybrid and especially across distributed environments, to get that single simplified view of that environment.
Yeah, I also liked all the stuff that they were doing with Thousand Eyes. That's an asset I think that you just mentioned has been under leveraged in that company. And Thousand Eyes is flat out the best internet monitoring tool out there. In fact, I thought one of the more interesting use cases of it was when G2's demo failed, right? When they were trying to do the WebEx demo, but then they went to Thousand Eyes to see why it failed. I actually thought they set that up. I talked to Todd and G2 both about it. And I said, did you have that fail on purpose? So you go to the Thousand Eyes dashboard? And they said, no, we really wanted the demo to work. But that actually showed how quickly you could, before that would take forever to troubleshoot.
Correct. Yeah. Just it would take forever just to get a trouble tick started, right, with the internet providers and whatnot. So yeah, I think that absolutely helps. And the other really interesting part about that announcement that I thought I took away from it was that predictive engine that they're creating, they implied that could be used across other areas. So we're starting to see that technology and Cisco being able to drive that across. So today it's in Thousand Eyes and doing the predictive networking across the internet. Tomorrow, data center, campus environment, et cetera. So I think that's something else for end users to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and they also, so what else they come with? They also did predictive analytics, right? Where you just sort of mentioned that. Describe what that is.
Yeah, so in this case, they were really talking about being able to, based on the data that's collected, go out and look and say, you know what, if you make these changes, this is what we believe your improved performance will be, right? And i.e. improved experiences will be. They provide you with the recommendation, you push a button and it makes that change. So it's that ability to analyze the environment, that internet environment, and be able to proactively make changes to provide better experiences for organizations. And that's the part I was talking about. That's where that engine, they hinted at the fact that will be able to be leveraged in other areas of their network environment. So that to me is really intriguing, and I'm looking for. So I think there's great value in what it's doing today, but I'm really looking forward to. I think that's really going to be amplified as they move that into additional areas.
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to see them roll into that too is AppD information, because they last year they rolled AppD and Thousand Eyes together and they came up with this concept of full stack observability. And I talked to Todd about this afterwards, where I said, well, if you roll in AppD, could you not actually get into full stack predictability, right? Where some of the what if scenarios that you were talking about running, could you actually then see how that changes in app behavior? And he said they've been thinking about it. They're not sure what to do there, but clearly there's something there. And AppD is another acquisition that I thought they haven't really leveraged as well as they could, but you can see it coming.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about, right, the QoS of the network is important, but at the end of the day, it's about the quality of experience of users with those applications that really matter. So being able to tie that end to end, that application experience across the network, that would be super powerful.
And the last announcement that I want to talk about that I thought flew under the radar a little bit because it was a day 2 announcement was Cisco U, right? So the Cisco learning program has fundamentally not changed since ever, right? Since they rolled it out. It's a certification program, and that's not totally fair. They've obviously had a lot of tweaks to it and things like that, but the structure of it largely is the same. You take your test, you write your certification, you get certified, and they've brought all those kind of components together, combined it with even NetAcad, Network Academy, and they created this thing called Cisco U. And I don't know how close you are to that group, but I thought one of the interesting things that they're trying to do with that is they're trying to make it a repository for all things Cisco, which it is today, plus a lot of adjacencies. So they're going to have Kubernetes classes in there. They're going to have AWS classes. They'll have GCP classes. And I said, is it possible you could have Arista classes or Juniper classes? And they said, sure, right? There's nothing stopping them. They want to create an open kind of learning platform for network engineers to go to learn about networking and all the adjacencies. And, there's nothing to stop that. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out, but they want to become the kind of de facto learning repository for networking.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart move, given the fact that it's, the silos are breaking down. you hear more and more about convergence, right? Networking ops teams and security op team, networking and DevOps, right? The network ops, SecOps, and IT ops, things like that. We're all trying to converge, and clearly the environment's getting a lot more complex. And so having the ability to provide some training and learning on those adjacent environments, right? Like the modern application environments and so forth, things like that, is only going to make you a stronger network engineer and be able to help you drive your business, right? And drive those positive results. So I'm all for anything that's helping these network engineers expand their boundaries, learn more, drive that next round of certifications. And certainly they're one of the leaders in it, right? The Network Academy is now, I think they mentioned 25 years old now. Yeah. For 25 years, they've been helping people get up to speed and help to optimize their networks. So if you can now, drive that to optimize the overall environment and not just the network environment, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, well, you're all for it. I think what you meant to say is you're all in.
All in. Yes, all in.
All right, Bob.
Cisco Live theme.
Yeah, that was. All right, Bob, it was good seeing you the last couple of weeks. We're going into summer, so it'll be a little bit quiet, but I'm sure we'll be, poking our heads into VM world or whatever it's called now. Anyways, on behalf of Bob, I'm ZKast Caravella. Don't forget, networking's back. So, get your projects started early and use that digital twin technology. So when you finally get your product, because everybody's having a supply chain shortage, you can deploy it right away. So anyways, Bob, thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks, ZS.
And all you watching, don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll see you next time on ZKast.